the chain of suffering can be loosened by taking care of our I, which is then activated by assuming a defensive role in our favor. Through sentiment we have the opportunity to interact with ourselves in the specific moment of discomfort, and recognize how our mental attitude is conditioned by a negative thought that tends to self-depreciate. Knowing that it is possible to intervene on our reflective judgment and on our state of mind, we can use this application to verify the authenticity of our thoughts and promote a better capacity for self-management of suffering. It is possible to prevent a dysfunctional response in the critical phase of emotional activation by saying to yourself, "I can't now act on my negative judgment." To establish a better relationship with oneself, it is essential to nurture with love that child who is inside us, scared and upset, who is suffering and who desperately needs help, but who, if supported, understood and encouraged, can affirm his identity by going beyond the limits of the fear that blocks it. The adoption of the sentiment process allows you to recognize the symptoms of inner suffering by establishing a direct relationship with yourself and implementing the necessary care practices so that the sensitive experience regains its authentic dimension. Simone Validity. How does the sentiment process protect us both for the rational part and for the emotional part? It is necessary to submit a model of self-control of the personality that can mediate on the attitude of self-depreciation. The goal is to prevent negative belief from assuming a predominant role over the need to preserve motivational thinking. The direct consequence of the negative perception of reality inevitably activates a dysfunctional emotional reasoning that keeps the individual unaware and dissociated. It is therefore essential to create a stimulus that acts on our survival instinct, favoring a direct relationship with that sensation of pain that generates the negative judgment about ourselves and that feeds the idea of suffering. Through the sentiment process, the sensation of pain on one's body is recognized, resulting in a spontaneous but protective reaction, favoring the self-preservation of one's suffering self. At the same time, motivational support is received that can maintain the correct mental orientation. Sentiment acts as a digital valve of self-conditioning of thought that helps to regulate and preserve the idea of being able to act on ourselves, despite the fact that our mental attitude is threatened by a negative event. 10 Principles for Activating the Sentiment Process. 1. At the moment of emotional activation, even before the emotion explodes, I can say to myself, "Now I can't protect myself from suffering. But how can I feel safer? I simply have to think of taking care of myself, of taking care of my suffering I." 2. We can intervene on our own judgment, considering that in the moment of discomfort we can say to ourselves, "I'm thinking negative, but I can't change my mind and start thinking positive." 3. Thinking negatively activates a wrong management of ourselves, and the result is a mental attitude that pushes us towards the abyss of self-devaluation. For taking care of yourself is essential to express yourself in an authentic way. 5. We can reveal everything about ourselves to the world as long as we do it in an authentic way. This in fact allows us to understand our needs and accept our limits. 6. In the moment of negative activation, it is possible to protect yourself emotionally and rationally by thinking positively. 7. Believing in oneself helps us to overcome the idea of suffering that imprisons us in an obsessive-compulsive vortex. 8. When we feel that we are sinking into the sense of failure, we can rise from a depressive state by filling that sense of inner emptiness with love. 9. Our self-esteem grows when we face life with courage. 10. By increasing self-esteem in ourselves, our confidence increases, which results in better management of our mental attitude.